In a world where two men sit down and talk about comic books, superheroes, TV shows, and other bullshit, Classy Nerd Talk proudly presents The Cape Chasers, starring Austin Burkhardt and Robert Plant.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to our first episode of Cape Chasers. I'm your host, Austin, with co-host
Bob Plant.
There he is, the man with the plan, Bob Plant. So this show, we're starting a new podcast. It's about pretty much just comic book talk and other things like that.
I'm sure we're going to get off topic about it, too. It's going to happen.
It will always happen.
We're saying probably right now it's going to be about comic books, but I give us like 20 minutes, and we're probably going to be talking about like the physics behind like
how Superman flies and the universe. Let's do some backgrounds.
All right.
So, do you want to go first?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Let's see if we can't break this ice. As we stated before, Bob Plant, pretty simplistic life. Easygoing guy, worked the 9 to 5. Kind of had that whole nerdy background, I guess, as far as back as I can remember. Started, really early with art. A lot of people know me as the art guy throughout high school. They were always like, oh, he's the talented one, he's the artistic one. It started with a pack of crayons, and I literally remember my mom giving me an issue of X-Men. And she was like, he can color in it, he can color with it. I don't care. The kid's shutting up, and he's leaving me alone. So that eventually just kind of turned into me mimicking those drawings. And, it got me into art. I'll split off on that sometime, I imagine. But that's what really got me into comic books was the whole art behind it. I was reading these comic books, and when I was young enough, that's when you had things like, The Amazing Spider-Man, X-Men. The cartoons were coming out in the 90s, and I was just getting the full whammy of it. I had it in my hands, I had it on the TV in front of me, I was making it myself. So it just started sucking me in, and as I got older, I just started realizing how big that world was, and I went deeper and deeper down that hole until a little bit of insanity kicked in, and been enjoying it ever since.
I understand completely with the whole artist thing, because like those the pictures that you see in comic books, they're awesome. Like some of those illustrations in comic books are, people don't give a lot of credit to people that draw comic books. Unless you're like the guy from Mallrats. He's actually a tracer. Oh, wait, no, that was Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yeah.
So, for me, my start out in comics and everything like that has to actually be back in the 90s when I was a kid. It actually wasn't comic book that started me on there. It was actually the X-Men animated series.
It was beautiful.
It was probably it still is from this time. Like, I could still go back and watch it and be like, man, this is corny. But I would still be like, this show's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Fucking A, like I really like that. But I'll never forget it, man. I was sitting down. I was about 8 years old at that time, and it just came on, and I was just completely focused, droned in on it. I was just like, dude, this is awesome. And after that, it kind of just fell all together with that. So, like, what happened was X-Men animated series came out, then Amazing Spider-Man, which most people consider, well, not Amazing Spider-Man, the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's how it kind of fell in. And then after I started watching X-Men, I was like, man, I really want to know more about this. This is pretty cool. And then my uncle was a huge comic book guy. And I was talking to him about X-Men. He was like, oh, well, there's comic books. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you need to look them up. So, like, I was getting these comic book editions. I was going to, like, every time that I would go to a store and there'd be a comic book, I'd buy it. I'd just be like, yeah, And then my collector edition, I started becoming a collector. And then I stopped collecting probably about, 5 years ago.
Really? Because I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. For collecting, I'm that horrible person that's like, I gotta touch it. I gotta open up that package. Mm-mm. This comic book is gonna have my fingerprints and oily skin all over it.
Well, no, I have that, but, the comics that are just readable comics.
Yeah.
Fell out of comics probably when I turned about 14.
Boobs?
Yeah. Mostly it was just women.
Yeah.
At that time. But then I fell back in with actually Herb Street's version of, I think it was Herb Street. I don't remember, of the Punisher. I forget who it was. I still have the issue, but I was working at Kroger's at the time in Mount Vernon, and I walked over to the Gamescape store, and they had the new Punisher comics. And I was like, you know what? That looks kind of cool. Because on the front, it's got like Frank, he's got like 2 guns. And he's just like sitting there with 2, like, I'm pretty sure they're MAC 10s or whatever they are. And he's just sitting there like this. And I was like, that's a person I could get behind. So I started reading them. And then before you know it, I started collecting again. So I started reading more and more. And now I'm here reading more. So, but all right. So anything further, let's figure out some things. So,
okay.
The biggest question that everyone asks, that you're a comic book guy, who's your favorite superhero?
Oh, and this is going to get the biggest reaction out of Austin. This is going to be great. Superman. He is my favorite.
Okay.
Now here's.
Yeah.
I'm going to defend
Yeah,
myself.
go ahead. Defend. You should defend yourself as much as you can.
My hands are up. Don't get me wrong.
Okay, good.
All right. I love the archetype. I realize he is totally convoluted because in essence, he has become the archetype. I love that, but that's also the worst thing about Superman is he's that big. He's the cure-all. Oh gosh, Steppenwolf, he's in the movie, he's smacking everybody around. Let's get Superman in there to come in last second. It's like, okay, I realize there's that part of him, but I love the fact that, and I don't know, maybe this is like influence of like Godzilla movies in a lifetime or something. I love unbridled destruction. And with Superman, arguably one of the most powerful beings in the DC universe, if not possibly the most powerful. I mean, arguments left and right. It's just awesome when he can unleash that can of whoop ass. Like, you're like, all right, Darkseid's coming to town. Superman's cracking his neck. He's going to get in there, and he's going to make him say uncle while he is just tickling that naughty spot on Darkseid. I mean, that's the stuff I love. Fists clashing, cities falling, babies crying, people's hair turning white instantly. That's what I like it, and that's why I like him. But at the same time, I realize people out there, and I will give you this, it gets old. He's, once again, the cure-all. He's what all the superheroes are supposed to look up to and go, oh, he's amazing. I just like it when he fights.
Well, here, then, I'll come back and talk about this. So, okay, I will give you this. When I started collecting comics, and I started reading comics, Superman, to me, was a complete snooze fest. The reason why is because I felt like he's kind of just this overpowered being that, like, they use him a lot, actually, in the comics to, like, deal with problems that they try to, like, they just were like, well, this character is completely built for Superman to beat him. Oh, no one can stop him. And then Superman comes in and just whoops him like 5 minutes in. And he's like, yeah, it's done. But I hated Superman until about last year. So Superman, I liked Superman, but I didn't love Superman to a point where I was like, none of his stories are worth it. Someone recommended me Kingdom Come.
Oh.
And I loved that rendition of Superman so much that I was like, this is so good. I was like, I seriously wanted to hate Superman. I don't like that character. And then after reading it, I didn't put that book down until it was finished. I was on a 15-hour shift at work one time at this home, and I was just reading through it just constantly.
That's a great thing about Alex Ross art as well, is you read through the story and you're going, oh my gosh, I feel like I missed something. And when you go through it that second time, you're noticing the nuances that Alex Ross has put in, and you're just like, oh, I forgot this guy is just beautiful artist.
Yes. He's I was really shocked about the artwork in that comic. I started liking Superman again. There was a time before that I did like Superman, and that was Smallville. I actually liked Smallville until probably about the 7th season.
Well, you did better than I did, because I love Smallville, but I think it was like the 4th season where I was just like, I'm invested, I'm watching it. Don't get me wrong, I lived to see Tom Welling every day do that classic turn away, sigh, and talk to whatever female he was interested in that week behind him.
Yeah. And I think that's the main thing that sells me on Smallville all the time. I don't care where you are, but I have it on my Spotify. And that's Rem Zero's Save Me.
Oh, yeah.
That theme music, like, seriously, when I'm, like, skipping through it, I'm in the car and Spotify's hooked up, and all of a sudden you just hear, somebody save. I'm just like, yep. I just allow it to happen.
To this day, I know at least 12 30-some-year-olds that if that song comes out, we are belting it at the top of our lungs. And for some reason, we're like, all right, we gotta call everybody and see about getting like a Smallville like binge going on. Or we just like, all of a sudden we're like, little tears, like, I remember the good days.
Yep.
You know, taking shots every time somebody used a superpower. Which, that was a horrible idea.
So, like, after saying that, I feel sometimes that Superman is really hard to write, though. And he's one of the hardest characters to write because why I say that is you have a character that's so big and it's... I like superheroes with flaws. I like superheroes that are like... When you put Superman there, there's nothing that, like, Superman really threatens of. Because you know, like, at the end of the day, when I read Superman comics, I'm like, yeah, he's going to be fine.
He's,
like,
he's going to be a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
He's not going to get hurt in the long run, you know. Maybe if there's some kryptonite, he might feel crappy for 24 hours, and Lois will make it all better.
It would be. But I also have a theory on how I could kill Superman if I did have the chance to be a villain. I seriously think I could do it.
Well, what's that?
I would not kill him in the physical way. I would show up to Lois Lane's house and put a bullet in her head.
Wow, that just...
Pretty dark, but
you know, I heard like kryptonite, like lattes or condoms, something like that. You just went straight up for the feels, man. You killed his heart.
That's the reason why, because that character relies on that person so much that I feel that, like, if I destroy him that way, now, unless we do the thing where he goes back and spins the earth and, you know, reverses that.
Best superpower ever.
Yeah. I seriously think that it would ruin him. It would completely, he actually would probably do what he did in Kingdom Come, just leave and just go and be by himself for a while.
His nice little, like, super Kansas.
And he's, like, he doesn't even have to, like, he has, like, that, I remember in the comic where there's, like, a huge plow and he's just, like, pulling it along. Yeah. I'm just like, dude, this guy should just, like, open up his own business and charge, like, millions.
Shit, I'd be doing the thing from Superman. I'd be grabbing coal left and right from barbecues and breaking, I'd be like, making it rain diamonds, bitches.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly it.
Let's flood that market. Alright, so we know mine. What's your favorite character? Who's your favorite character? I'm sorry.
Okay. Favorite superhero. You know, I told you this already, but Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to say Daredevil's... The reason why I fell in love with Daredevil is Frank Miller has to be one of the reasons why I fell in Daredevil, and Kevin Smith. But Daredevil, to me, is this character that even though he sounds kind of cheesy, if you tell someone that's not a fan of comic books, they're just like, that sounds dumb. Because it's about a blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen, But he's got super hype senses.
I mean, I remember when I was a kid, or like you said, you try to explain to somebody, it's like, he's a blind lawyer, yeah. It's like, so how threatening is Helen Keller?
Exactly.
In the aspect, you gotta remember, I guess, he's got the superpowers, chemical in the eyes, or he's just superhuman, however they want to portray it now. I agree with you. I love the Daredevil comics. Kevin Smith, in my eyes, is a jewel that this world has, and when I heard that he had a heart attack, I cried a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll admit it. But Daredevil is one of those characters I always forget about until somebody brings him to a story. I'm like, this guy is badass. He's beating the shit. He doesn't have money like Batman. He works on lawyer money. He does all that stuff commission-wise. Yeah.
I like Daredevil because he tries really hard to pursue justice, but he tries to pursue it in the right way. But it probably ends up, most of the time, not the right way.
Yeah.
And I like the characters that are in Daredevil, like Foggy, Karen Page, one of my favorite comics of all time with Daredevil is probably have to be when Karen became a complete heroin addict. And she sold out Matt as Daredevil just to get heroin. My gosh. And Kingpin got that information and fucked with Matt Murdock and literally made him homeless and all this other stuff. And I was just like, this is amazing. This storyline, whoever came up with it. And then I read the front and I was like, who came up with this? Because I was just reading it. And Frank Miller, of course. But
because let's be honest, Frank Miller has never had one nice, happy, fluffy bunny thought in his life.
No.
That man had to come out of his mother with a scowl.
Yeah, that guy... He knows how to hit key points of just darkness, but he doesn't have to go so dark to a point where you're just like, I don't want to read this. It's more of like, I want to figure out how this person... He puts someone in a hole, like a dark, dark hole, and then you get to see this person climb out of that hole.
Yeah, I mean, because let's be honest, it's human nature. We want to see the train wreck happen, and we want to see it fixed afterwards.
See, that's why I like Daredevil, because Daredevil is just this character that he battles with things that are real... kind of issues. He battles with a love life where he literally doesn't feel like he's wanted, and then he battles with his friend that he's trying to be a lawyer partner with, and the thing is now, since we're seeing all the stuff that's going on with Daredevil in the series, perhaps, and there's one thing that we don't speak of, and that's the Ben Affleck Daredevil.
Why? It was the greatest movie ever made.
Oh my gosh. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to say my 2 cents on this is Ben Affleck was okay. I'm going to give him that. Ben Affleck needs to be redeemed in a superhero role, and people thought it was Batman, and I don't think. I liked him as Batman, but I don't think that it was
I might make some people angry with this one. I thought he was the best parts of Justice League.
Nope. I agree. 100% best part of that, and Batman versus Superman.
Yeah, he was. He was.
But I don't think it's the right Batman for him to play.
Him and Jeremy Irons.
Yeah. Jeremy Irons is pretty sweet, so I'm going to give you that, because, Jeremy Irons is awesome, period.
A little bit off topic here. How is that every DC or Batman franchise, Alfred is the best part of it, in my opinion?
It's really weird, because even when Joe Schumacher had the crappiest Batmans you'll ever see next to Forever and Batman Robin, Schumacher, that Alfred's great. Even though he played in I'm pretty sure he played in the Michael Keaton ones too.
I believe he did he did all of them.
Yeah.
He was Alfred for all of them. And then when they did the revamp of, Nolan and everything, they brought in Kane, and then now they have Irons. And I don't know, maybe it's the English accent. It just sounds so classy and so right.
Yep.
It's going to sell it no matter what. It's just you got to be a tender-hearted man with an English accent, and that's all. But I feel like I'm underselling these actors, because every time I watch them, I'm like, this is Alfred. This is how Alfred should be.
Yeah. So, okay, since this is kind of not structured yet.
Yeah.
Out of all those Alfreds, which one was your favorite?
I gotta go with the original. He's my favorite Alfred.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Just because I think the age was there.
Mm-hmm.
As the movies went on, the ages, I think, got closer between the actors that played Batman and Alfred. Mm. Or at least they looked as if their ages were closer.
That's the problem I had with Jeremy Irons. Because he's exactly almost the same age as Ben Affleck in a way.
There's maybe 10, 20 years at most. And they're on that side of 10, 20 years where it's it doesn't matter. Gray hairs, gray hair, or wrinkles are starting to appear.
Yeah.
At least to the perspective of somebody as young and spry as me.
I actually liked Michael Caine.
Really?
I like Michael Caine a lot.
Yeah, there's not much to hate about that man.
Yeah. There's just, even though you could put him in a really crappy movie, he'd shine. He shines through that film. Yeah. No matter what. It could be
Austin
Snakes
Powers.
on the... It'd be Snakes on the Plane 4. And if he's in it, I'm still going to watch it because of Michael Caine.
Oh, I wish they would make Snake Down on Plane 4. I would love to see Samuel L. Jackson just screaming his way through those sequels.
I've had it with all these fucking planes.
I'm going to go hang out with these snakes. Motherfuckers!
Yeah, back to this again. So let's turn the arc a little bit more. So we know what our favorite superheroes are.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like now? Like, what surprised you? Okay, so, like, let's go like this. Let's bring in the movies or the comics at any time. What is a shock to you? Like, you were just like, this is really good. Like, you didn't expect it to happen.
This one is, it's a little bit more, I guess, fresher. It's not, the mind-blowing news, but the Inhumans in Marvel, they killed the show, which, all fairness, that show didn't take off like they wanted to. I think they were expecting Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of reviews and viewings, but it didn't happen. One, because Inhumans, I in my opinion, are not one of the bigger Marvel storylines, never will be. And now they're killing the comic book, or at least the characters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like, oh, we're letting it play out and their stories going to end. No, they're straight up blowing holes through these people in big old splash pages for you to just dismay at. That one kind of surprised me. I figured I can understand ending a comic line, but killing it, that's something a little bit finite, I guess.
Man. So me, Runaways. Have you watched Runaways at all?
Yeah. My wife and I, when we watched it, I didn't know a whole lot about Runaways. I was aware they existed. I knew the basic story plot of it. That's about it. Not much in the character development. But when I watched it, whether it be the acting of the children or with the adults, we actually kind of liked it. It seemed a little bit more of it was something, I guess, new and something a little different. I think it's maybe tailored towards a younger generation that's half my age.
It totally is.
That one, I liked it.
I was just shocked because I didn't expect them to do that at all. Like, I was like, okay, so what's coming up next? And they're like, we're going to do Runaways. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't expect that. But then I kind of did because Inhumans was happening and then Cloak and Dagger was happening. So I was like,
Which actually...
which is another surprise.
Yes. I've been enjoying that one.
Really?
I figured it was going to scrape the barrel. And
I haven't touched it at all. And everyone's been telling me that it's really good. The reason why I haven't touched it, the first trailer I saw, I was like, wow, this actually looks good. But the channel that they were going to go through, like Freeform, I was like, what?
Yeah, I had the same reaction. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Freeform. I swear to goodness, if one person hugs their problems out, I'm throwing my TV across the room. Which, I don't have huge alliances to Cloak and Dagger. I mean, when I first heard they were coming out with Cloak and Dagger, I'm like, wow, Disney and Marvel are scraping the bottom of that barrel, ain't they? The characters, the actors they have for it, darn decent job. They're writing it pretty well. At least the dialogue and the interactions between them have been... It's really neat to see how they play that light and dark and the characters against each other.
I was just shocked because I heard that, like, my buddy Travis, me and him were kind of like on the same page, and he told me, he's like, this is good. You should watch it. Haven't had time. But now, since after hearing it from you, I'm actually going to look into that.
It's the first episode. If you can't get into the first episode because they do a beautiful job cinematically, I think of opposites but same occupying the same space, then you'll never understand the rest of the entire series. So
that makes sense.
I could see that's why maybe some people, if they had negatives with it, they were like, this just isn't my cup of tea. Like you had stated earlier, the dynamic posing, the juxtaposing, conflict of angles or stories, that plays a lot in this show.
Oh, yeah.
So it's that part got me, and it lets me kind of forgive some crappy writing here and there, or at least some crappy dialogue delivery that comes with Freeform. But
I can totally understand. Okay, so another question I had,
all right,
was biggest disappointment.
Biggest disappointment? Okay, hands down, and you stop me if I go on a rant that just annihilates this room.
Okay, go ahead.
X-Men Origins Wolverine. Oh my gosh, I was so angry. I'm a big guy. When I sit down, I'm not moving. Unless it's certain death.
Oh, yeah.
I plant roots. Even more so in movie theaters. I'm like, I paid, $10 for a ticket and $75 for my popcorn. I'm going to watch this movie. I was in the movie, I'm watching it, and I'm like, this is a piece of dog shit.
I think you and half of America realize that too.
Oh, and then the worst part, I was sitting there, I'm like, you know what? Crappy acting, crappy writing. They will redeem themselves in one instance. And this is before it happened in the movie. I'm thinking this to myself. I'm like, we have Weapon X. Mm. As long as he goes all sorts of sick house on these people, I'll be okay with it. Mm. He pig sticks one guy and walks out of there like it's not a problem. Like he just went and got some rice. I mean, it's that I was outraged. We walked out of the theater. My wife was like, "Oh, it wasn't that bad," and I just looked at him like, "You're walking home."
Oh no, I understand what you mean by that because Wolverine Origins was let's take into account Hugh Jackman. I'm pretty sure that he'll say that's his worst role he's ever done.
I'm glad he knows his mistakes because he deserved to have his nose rubbed in it.
And Ryan Reynolds has made fun of that film multiple times.
Oh my gosh!
Especially the new one. We're not going to spoil that because it hasn't came out on DVD. But that part did crack me up pretty bad in the second Deadpool.
Yeah.
So, but I understand where you're coming from. I totally agree. I totally agree with that. That is one of the worst things that's happened in any of the universes so far.
I know, and I didn't even touch Gambit. I didn't touch anything. All right, before my blood pressure spikes and we got to call an ambulance. For you, what was your biggest letdown on?
Okay, don't be upset about this.
Okay.
But I could not tolerate this at all. Gotham.
All right, I'm leaving. You have a nice life. I will see you later. No, it's fine.
I just felt that, why? Why would you do a show without the person that makes those people the thing they are? Because I felt like it was like CSI meets Gotham. Like real Gotham. Like
you're not horribly wrong for the first couple seasons. That's definitely how it felt.
I couldn't get past the first season.
It's one of those shows where I literally kept on watching it, and for some reason I was like, I'll just throw it on. I'm folding laundry or I'm sketching some art or something, and it's on in the background. I'll glance up every once in a while just to keep in the plot. And I found it's very hot or cold. Either I'm really into the season, I'm like, oh, this is just awesome. Mm. And then other times I'm just like, wow, how high are these writers? Because either it's too much or not enough. And I'm not sure where that balance is that they should be at. But yeah, I think they could have done more. It's something that felt like it didn't need to exist in the...
I think it was like what you were talking with Marvel about where they're scraping the bottom. I think this is DC's attempt to scrape the bottom a little bit. Because, I like Batman. Batman is the reason why you read any comics that involves Batman. You don't be like, oh, the Riddler's in this one. It's more like... Batman's in this one. He's going to kick some ass. Even though Bane's a cool character. Bane's my favorite villain from Batman. Okay. Most people are thinking probably Catwoman or Penguin or anything. I like Bane because Bane, and the thing is it destroys me because I seriously haven't seen that character done, in my opinion, a little bit of... Dark Knight Rises was okay.
If you got rid of that, how are you, Twitter?
Well, I wanted a little bit more, and I think this is me being just a comic book nerd. I want the serum. I want straight up, toxin. I straight up want, tight. That's what I want. But I understand where Nolan was going with it because he wanted something that was a little bit more realistic.
Yeah, he had that great, way of looking at a perspective and going, where can I separate reality and comic books, or at least have them overlap enough? And that you're right, though. That's one of the biggest things about Bane. Venom. I mean, even when they did... Who was it? It was Clooney that took on Bane and Freeze and Ivy. If you knew nothing else about Bane, it was that he had that slap button and he was a big guy and he was strong. I mean, yeah, I know, I loved it. Burn. It's like, okay, you're just looking at half the character. But at least they were smart enough to realize that's the biggest identifying part of Bane is, like you said, the Titan part of him. He's just massive. No, the other part was that he was also incredibly brilliant and broke the bat.
That's the thing. That's one of the biggest comic book things that influences me. Batman comics. The biggest comic, in my opinion, with Batman is next to another comic, which is Under the Red Hood. I would have to say is Bane breaking Batman. Because, that scene is so iconic that even Christopher Nolan loves that scene, and he did it in Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, yeah.
I just love that. And then people... I just love right after Bane breaks Batman's back and then he's trying to get back to being Batman. Alfred's like, so how's it going, Master Wayne? And he's like, well, I've only done 1,000 push-ups. That's way over. And I'm like, what? I can't even do one.
Are you dude, I get like a sweat breaking out when I think about getting up out of my chair to go to the bathroom. I mean...
and the thing is that character to me, it's only been done correctly through the animated shows or the little movies that they've done. Because I thought Doom was actually, Justice League, it was Batman, Justice League, Doom. Well, the animated movie, I thought that was done really well, the person that did Bane. But on big screen, hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
But I would have to say, Gotham, why I brought Gotham that way is because I don't feel that it's Gotham to me. I just feel like it's like kind of a soap opera in a way. I was excited because there was one actor that was in Gotham that I was like, wow, he's playing the Joker, which is, I forget the actor's name, but he played in Shameless, which is...
Yeah, gosh, I wish I could give due credit to him because that kid can flip a switch from calm collected to crazy real fast.
And like everyone that's watched Gotham and told me about how he acts in the show, I've kind of wanted to watch Gotham. But every time I watch it, like I'm that kind of person that I can't just jump a couple seasons and then get into it. It's more of like, I have to watch this, all of it.
You know what? I'll tell you this. You can't do that with Gotham. At least I couldn't. Because I've had things where I've had stored up like 2 or 3 episodes on a DVR or something, and I go to watch it, and I get through the first one, I'm like, nope, I'm just going to be left behind. I just got to catch up to it. I'm not watching another one. It's something that you have to do in small doses.
But yeah, that was my biggest disappointment so far.
Now here's, we talked about our favorite characters, but that doesn't necessarily mean, for my next question, what's your favorite comic book to read?
Ooh. So, like, are we going with, like, what's my favorite comic of all time? Or are we going with kind of, what's the comic book that you would go out of your way to read and just keep reading it?
Let's go with the latter. Like, what's the one that it's your bread and butter? Like, when you come back, you're like, oh, I got to pick up that issue, or I got to look at what's happening with these characters because they flow around that central line.
So, if I had to pick, I would have to probably say Punisher, actually.
Okay.
Every time for some odd reason, I don't know what it is, but his artwork always on the front of his cover, just every time when I go to a comic book store, I'll never forget it. There's 2 people that will just give me eye open. I'll just be like, whoa, here, what's this? Punisher is one of those, and Wolverine.
Okay.
X-Men, just, because I'll never forget it. I fell out of comics, Punisher kind of did that, but then I'll never forget Old Man Logan, the comic. Because when you walk into a store and you see Wolverine, gray hair, and he's got a claw like this, and it's coming out, and it's got blood all over it, you're not going to be like, that's probably not bad.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be like, whoa, dude, I'm going to get this comic right now.
What the hell stressed this man out so much? I mean, his everyday life are these claws coming out, so what is what are his problems? Mine flows, it's Marvel as well, I'll say that. X-Men. It's kind of like, it's like my one true love I started with and I will end with. I started with X-Men when I was a kid. Every time I come back, the first place I go is to X-Men and the X-Men characters. I honestly can't give a great reason other than I loved the storyline that they are trying to protect the people that hate them the most.
Yes.
And I always loved that duality of the whole main structure. But then as I got older, and I think I kind of liked it more, is that I almost sided with the people like the Brotherhood or something, where I was like, if I was in their spot and I could lift up a skyscraper just by lifting my hand, I'd probably drop it on some people that didn't like me.
Yeah. See, I'll agree with the X-Men thing. What I liked about X-Men, what drives me to like the X-Men, period, is it touches on reality a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
what I mean by that is, like, if you had someone that was completely superhuman, when you talk about Superman or Batman, they're just like, oh, this is Batman, he's cool, we're cool with Superman, he saves everyone. But then X-Men's like, these guys saved us? But What if they didn't? What if they came into our house and did martial law on us? Like completely,
I love it. There is that aspect, like you have, and even in the same universe, you have Captain America, Iron Man. It's like, this guy made an entire robotic suit just to blow shit up. Mm-hmm. But these people here were born this way. They had no control over it. We're going to burn them at the stake, and we're going to idolize the alcoholic that's flying around $1 million. I mean, I think people even are like, oh, we like the Hulk more than we like mutants. Mm. And it's like, dude, that guy went green and just started humping the shit out of the Chrysler building.
Yeah.
I mean, and it wasn't a good, like, sensual thing. No. It was a hate fuck.
Oh, man. But yeah, that's... I get you with X-Men on that. Because X-Men is... It doesn't completely just go with one character. You're getting, like, the whole vast of these other characters. There's some characters that do stand out. The X-Men, like Wolverine. And Jean Grey, of course. And also, too, it's one of the hardest... I think it's one of the most hardest comic books to be brought to big screen. Because you have characters that are, like, a whole bunch of characters. They're this team, but... who's going to shine the biggest?
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, you have your lines of like, okay, Captain America. I mean, you have the Winter Soldier in it. You have Sentinel. I mean, but Captain America is the best above them. He's the cut above.
Yep.
With Iron Man, he's had War Machine, he's had different suits, he's had people helping him out wearing his armors, but you always go back to Tony Stark. Mm-hmm. With the X-Men, it's everybody in their own right is a powerhouse son of a bitch. Yep. I mean, you got one guy that has metal claws that essentially can't be killed, another one that will mind rape you into another reality, and another one that he looks like a demon and he can teleport anywhere he wants to. I mean, just one of those people could totally... would be enough to be a hero in their own right, mm-hmm. but you have them in one line. Like you said, how are you going to propel one person forward against the other when essentially they're all just really fighting for their own spots?
Oh, yeah. And that's what makes that comic great, is because you have these people that are trying to do good, and then you have the conflict of those humans that are just like, we don't want these people around.
Damn dirty humans.
So they have to deal with... They don't have to just deal with these supervillains. They have to deal with normal day society, like not accepting who they are.
Yeah. And kudos to Stan Lee, because I love that, it's mid-late 60s. He's coming out with this stuff, and he's like, let's just slip this in right here. And everyone was like, yeah, we're going to write off on it. Great, we're going to accept this. And he's like, you jackasses bought it. and I love that what he talked about in the past, he's like, well, not everybody could be, bitten by a radioactive spider. It's like, no, you wrote a storyline of tolerance and acceptance, and you knew why. You wrote a story about a boy that got bitten by a radioactive spider, but you also wrote about an everyday man or everyday kid that had everyday challenges. That part was always kind of neat about Stan Lee's, his great early works. He was able to slip that in, and children, adults alike, we bit into that sandwich real hard.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's relative. Like, you can relate it to yourself sometimes.
And I think that's where, like, Marvel, you kind of go to relate. DC, you go to, I guess, dream almost a little bit, or, like, look at the extra crazy. I mean,
yeah,
you go there to see the last son of a dying planet. You go there to see a rich billionaire, or an Amazon princess.
Or you just see, like, what I like to say, because most people ask, well, what DC most of the time, if someone, in which I'll bring this into another question, actually we'll bring it in here, is most people ask me, hey, I want to get into comic books. What would you recommend to read? Why I'm bringing this up with DC is there's one story that I always recommend to any person that's getting into comics, and that's actually Under the Red Hood.
Okay.
The reasoning why... Now, the comic, there is a part in it that and I'm glad that they fixed it in the animated movie, because I was so upset. And even the creator and the writer of the original comic was like, that wasn't my spin on it. They made me put that in because they needed an issue to get through, But I recommend that because, one, you go there, like what you were saying, you go there for like more of like that mythical type deal,
Yeah, like
you want like the dream base where you're just like, yeah, I could be that person,
Yeah, I mean, with Marvel, it's usually like, They started out human. They became amazing. DC,
It's like you were born.
they were born that way. They're going to be amazing. I mean,
or they were chosen for that.
yeah.
Like Green Lantern was chosen to be, Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah, I mean, but he had a really simple life of being a test pilot flying around jets. I mean, just the mundanest thing you could do.
Oh, yeah. But why I say that is because that story arc is one of the most conflicting things I've ever seen Batman go through, because Batman goes through Robins like crazy. Let's be honest.
He's like, what day of the week is it? Tuesday? Oh,
well, let's be honest. Damon Wayne dies from his nega self, Like, you're just, like, kind of shocked because, like, most people, when you talk about Robin, the only ones that they ever really know is Dick Grayson, and then they know Jason Todd.
Or that, or you go, there's more than one Robin. They're like, birds?
Birds?
I mean, you blow their mind. You're like, no, there's been more than one Robin. He's cycled kids in and out. And, I told my wife that. And she was like, oh, that's crazy. And I went to explain it a little bit more. And she was just like, to be honest, on the third one, you lost me because I stopped caring. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? So did the readers.
Yeah, so the readers did. But Jason Todd, the reason why I like that is because that's the first time when I read that comic, and, well, death in a family, pretty much. That's what that comic is. But watching Batman feel helpless, that he couldn't save the one person that he cares about at that time. Like, it's like if, let's take, for instance, a trio that's like the best superhero, like it's like
if one of the turtles lost a brother.
Yeah, like that's just like, it's hard. Like, that is one of the hardest things to read. But I like to show people that because I'm like, look, this is the kind of stuff that you have to deal with, because you're going to have something like so emotional that's going to drive you that you have this clown prince of crime literally beating this kid with a crowbar and asking him, do you like option A or option B? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then even if you don't like comic books, and I tell them that, I'm like, hey, before you read it, why don't you watch the animated movie? And, they watch that, and I think Joe, I forget his last name. It's not DiMaggio or whatever. It's Joe, whatever. But he does the voice for Bender for Futurama. Mm-hmm. He played Joker in that one, and he did really good. But I like that story arc, and I tell people that is because that shows the real Batman. That doesn't show the Batman that's like, I'll beat your ass. Like, that's it. It's more of like Batman's emotions. And then when he comes back, and then you find out who is this red hooded guy, and it's Jason Todd, you're just like, at that time, I kind of knew it was going to happen, but I didn't. But I was like, man, this is because Batman puts it, and he feels so guilty about that for the rest of that comic book era, that when it does happen, he's just like, I couldn't do anything. Like, I couldn't save that, So, like, you feel helpless. Like, Batman felt helpless. That's why I like that story arc.
I remember I was reading the Hush series.
Oh, my gosh.
And when they started saying, it's Jason Todd, I'm like, no, these sick bastards wouldn't do that. You wouldn't take away a kid and give him back. And then, it turns out Clayface and whatnot. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And then when I started getting into the Red Hood, I was like, they're going to do this, aren't they? And I flipped the page. I'm like, you sickos.
You sick son of bitches.
You did it. You finally done it. You just want to watch this world burn, watch me cry. You made Fatman cry. Hope you're happy. No, but yeah, that's a great one to start off with. I mean, not to mention a hell of a roller coaster to go through.
Well, you want to show that, like, this is something that's story driven. Like, you want a connection. And I always recommend that one. And it's weird because most people, when I talk to them online about how I hate DC Universe movies and how much I hate them because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't get through them. But then they're like, you're just a Marvel fanboy. And I'm like, if you would actually ask me if I wanted to get into comics, what would I recommend? And I recommend a DC comic. That's saying something because that means I'm not a Marvel fanboy. I'm actually, and that's the thing is, like, I hate that whole cross that people have where they can't just have, just two existing comic book universes. Yeah. They're all good in their own way. It's just there's some bad things and there's some good things,
And we like making fun of the bad things. I mean, let's be honest. We're talking about people in tights going around and smacking the shit out of each other.
Like, you know, and we love making fun of stuff. Like, seriously, like Batman versus Superman the movie. When Batman had Superman down with the kryptonite spear and he's like, Martha! I was like, no, stop. You know?
I remember my brain kind of reset and I was like, wait, what just happened? I blacked out. Did they just bring up their mom? And then they're like, bestie!
Yeah.
And I'm just, and I'm like, oh. I mean, I went into that movie harder than a diamond, and when that part happened, my dick was limp forever.
Well, it was bad story. It was bad story writing.
It was.
You know, like,
it was.
After this whole epic fight that was really decent, like the fighting in that and like everything was pretty decent, but that part ruined it, and there was a lot of plot holes.
And then you finish it off by going, hey, let's bring one of the worst things that could happen to Superman. Let's bring him in and just let him kill him. I was like, dude, that should have been your Justice League villain right there, in my opinion. I mean, that would be a reason to bring some people together. Hey, see that city over there? Oh, look, it's gone. We should do something about that.
Well, actually, I think you're onto something there, because I really think that actually would have worked at Justice League if you would have had Doomsday.
Yeah.
And then, like, the whole part, because the thing is I don't think Superman at that time was actually, those movies that came out, like Man of Steel, and those things leading up to Batman versus Superman, they weren't great.
No,
they were decent, but they weren't good to a quality where you're like, I really care about this character.
Right. I mean,
but if you would have waited and done that for Justice League and would have made a couple more movies before that and made Superman so important that you couldn't lose Superman, and then Justice League happens and Doomsday kills Superman.
And guess what? Your sequel's wide open, because now and I'm doing the finger motion, the Kryptonian is gone.
Yeah.
And guess who can make his way in? Darkseid. Oh, cool. There's your second one. Then you can do your resurrection, bring him back then. Or heck, your second movie is about how the team gets smashed apart by Darkseid. And the third movie is where you bring him back and then everything's hunky-dory and there's a building being flown across and you make the Flash comedic relief. God. I struck out. I'm sorry. I struck out.
No.
Struck out.
Well, I think what we need to do is one time we actually need to put in, we should actually talk about like the DC universe and how the DCU and how it just needs to be fixed, and the things that bother us the most. We'll talk about that.
And I mean, and let's not say that there isn't redeeming things about it either. But yeah, there's definitely gonna be something in the future like that.
But, like, yeah, if you could recommend a comic book to someone, if someone came up to you and was like, Mr. Bob, I want to get into comics, so what comic would you recommend me?
Archie. No.
I was about to say, I was like, I think we're just going to end it here. Thanks for watching.
The look on your face was brilliant. Oh, that one. I think a good stepping on point, maybe House of M.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, wow.
Like, and this is just because of my own personal way, I would have loved to be able to come in at something like that and just watch the world get blown asunder and put back together and, all of that crap happen. I mean, you literally have, like, destruction, creation, recreation. I mean, everything happens in this whole story arc. I think it'd be a great way to step into the world because it affected all the comic books. I mean, you had the ripple effect, and as you got further out, it was like, oh, did you hear about the House of M effects? Yeah, no. I'm gonna go get some coffee. I mean, you had that part, but I mean, maybe there or Civil War. Those would be the two I would say. Those would be. Actually, you know what? I'm changing my answer. Civil War. I'm going Civil War.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, you have all your heroes in one spot. They're discussing a very relevant point about superheroes, and there was a lot of stuff that kicked off after that. So that would be. I think I'd recommend that one.
Well, it's a great stepping stone. Why I say that is because most of the time you want something that's juicy and like a really good story arc. You can't just be like, oh, you like superheroes? Who interests you? Well, Batman. Why don't you try the first Batman?
Yeah. You know what? Because you're going to look at it and see a bunch of racial insensitivity or
you're going to see like, what was the one that like everyone had a problem with? It was Detective Comics where Batman literally was using a syringe. I forget what it was, and he was
gosh. I forgot about that.
Or, like, there's some things that, and here's the thing. How about we bring this question in? Out of all the characters, who is the most ridiculous or interesting one you've ever had. Like, most people, like, they're like, oh, well, I don't really read this character, but, this is interesting because of this person. Or ridiculous. What I mean by ridiculous is, here, I'll go first about ridiculous. Snowflame.
Snowflame.
Have you ever heard of Snowflame?
I don't think I have.
Okay, so I brought this up a couple times, actually, on the Marvel talk that we had. And I never heard of Snowflame ever in my life. Someone brought this up to me during a movie. It was my brother's friend. And I was like, okay. And I looked him up, and oh my gosh.
I'm looking him up. Keep talking.
You look him up right now. Look up Snowflame, and I want you to tell us and tell the audience what Snowflame's powers are. I think you're going to love this.
All right, first I'm going to tell you what his powers are just by looking at him. His powers are to look snazzy.
Yeah, you should just read it.
Current alias. I don't care about his marital status. Best superpower ever, everybody. I'm going to get a little closer to the microphone for this one, so there's no... I'm going to enunciate. Gains superpowers upon snorting cocaine. I present the question, who doesn't get superpowers when they snort cocaine?
Just kind of like LSD, too.
Yeah. You know what? And the best part is now looking at this image, that suit makes so much more sense.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Oh, my
There's
gosh.
actually a photo of him just
Yep, right there. I was just clicking on it. I was like, wow.
He's straight up just like has like his hands full of cocaine.
He's just loving that snow cone, just putting it in his face. I can't top that. I was going to go with like Howard the Duck or like, Crypto or something. You just blew me out of the water.
Snowflame.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, my life is now brighter.
See, I would have to say too, the next one after that, in my opinion, would probably have to be when you find out Green Arrow's buddy Speedy, where he gets his powers, and it's heroin. So, because actually if you look this up right now, like there's actually, if you put in Speedy does heroin, I'm pretty sure there's a comic book where like Green Lantern's holding Speedy and he's slapping him because he's got a syringe in his arm. Like you've seen that meme where like Batman's and Robin are talking and it's like, and he slaps him. Kind of like that in a way. So...
I just love how history can do that. Things it's like, oh, let's just glance over this next page. Oh, that's a kid with a needle in his arm. Next page.
Yeah, see, like,
oh, it's an ad for sunglasses.
They don't really touch that anymore. Like,
no,
it was a different time period. Comics changed, things changed.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at it now. I mean, I hate to say it, but like Black Lightning. Show is amazing. I'm glad that this character is getting propelled because I think he's one of the most underrated DC heroes that there was. I mean, just the fact that I was like, the guy can shoot lightning.
Mm-hmm.
That's an awesome power. Don't ever play that power now.
No.
I don't know. I think we have hit the key points that we needed to. There's been a lot of structure, a lot of discussion, a lot of Snowflame.
A lot of Snowflame. A lot of Tony Montana Snowflame. He's the Tony Montana of that universe.
Can you imagine? He's like, all right, the Joker's bringing down Gotham. Hold on, just let me get bumped. Oh yeah, let's do this. Let's tear something up. I expect he sounds like Hulk Hogan. Like that's just how he is in my mind.
Yeah, I just want him to be like,
Macho Man or something like that. Oh yeah. Oh.
Every time he snores, they should totally just bring him in as like in a movie at all. And I can't just in the middle of like a universe. Put him right there, just him snorting cocaine.
Yeah, would his like sidekick be like caffeine or like something like that? Like every time he drinks a soda, he gets superpowers. It's like he's not quite to the par of Snowflame. But
well, he probably could have Bryan Cranston with the meth.
All right.
But no, so next time we'll be talking a little bit more. Thanks for coming by, hanging out. This has been Cape Chasers. Just a little of advertisement while we go here. Make sure you like Classy Nerd Talk and follow our pages and stuff, social media, stuff like that. Be part of our community. Robert actually does a lot of art and posts it up on there, and people love his art.
Yeah.
They really like it. It's really fun. So
it's so gratifying.
But next time we'll actually be talking about some things, more structure there at that time. But this was just pretty much just an origin story, you know, for the audience to figure out who we were, really. So
Yeah, get used to our voices and our personalities.
yeah, that was a lot of fun. But just remember, the night is before dawn. Just kidding. I don't know what I'm saying. But we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.